You mentioned being stabbed in the back by our supposedly progressive allies, and that, of course, reminds me of our favorite senator from Massachusetts, Elizabeth Warren. And I think what makes your commentary and thinking on all of these issues so interesting to me and so compelling is that not that long ago, you were on the other side of the aisle when it comes to the more corporate Democrats versus the more progressive left flank of the party. Could you maybe just explain a little bit what changed your mind so massively, and how we can take that experience that you had and maybe turn that into a positive tactic as far as changing people's mind, especially when it comes to third party politics, where we do see so many liberals that are just so vehemently in opposition to the concept?
Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize this, but I voted for Bernie in 2016 in the 2016 primary. And then, but here's what's interesting is even someone like me who related with his message, right? I was still not as progressive as I am now, and I hadn't had my big political awakening. So right after the primary, I was upset, that Bernie lost. But I like a good obedient Democrat, I got right on the train for Hillary and voted for Hillary. And then what's interesting is the kind of message that was put out after that. It was like, well, great job, Bernie. You did a great job, but like, that's just so unrealistic. Everyone having healthcare, future generations having a habitable planet, like go Bernie for fighting for those great things. But that's just not going to happen, right? Because we're a party that doesn't really care about the people. We care about our corporate donors. So the message I got as someone who voted for Bernie in 2016 was, well, that's just, it didn't happen. And then after Hillary lost, this is how powerful our corporate media propaganda is. For the first year after she lost, I bought into some of the BS narrative around Russia. I'll admit it. That is how powerful CNN and MSNBC and the DNC are. Even someone like me who initially supported Bernie, I bought into some of that crap. And so when it was time to support a candidate in 2019, I initially, supported Warren and thought, and let's be clear, Warren also talked a lot more progressive at the beginning of her campaign. Then as it went on, right, she started to back away from some of her more progressive policies like Medicare for all. And so what happened for me was my real big awakening was kind of right after, well, first off, Iowa and the whole thing with the app. Like I was still kind of supporting Bernie. I was supporting both for a minute, and I remember like I would tweet things about Bernie and Warren. I was actually at one point a Warren surrogate. They'd be like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you saying nice things about Bernie? I'm like, because I relate with Bernie. Like I supported him in 2016, like, or like in a debate, like I there was that one debate where like the two of them were just like going ballistic together against the status quo. And I thought that this is great. This is amazing. Like, he was really pushing Medicare for all. She was really pushing the wealth tax. He was pushing the Green New Deal. And it just felt like, oh my gosh, this is going somewhere. And then right after Iowa, right after all that crap, and after seeing that like Bernie was the one who could win, like Warren didn't have a path after Iowa. Yeah, so that's when I was like, okay, guys, like I left the Warren campaign and endorsed Bernie.
Yeah.
Okay. It is my right. It is anyone's right to do that. I got more shit. And I'm just like this little activist. I'm not like that big of a deal. They made me like I was the most evil person in the world. I left things so amicably. I told Warren's campaign, like, I helped raise $10,000 for Warren's campaign in grassroots money. Like I did a lot for that campaign. I told the campaign, like, this is just what I got to do. I got to follow my heart. Like Bernie is the progressive who has a path and he can win and we need to get behind him. Oh my goodness. It was like, I was the most evil person in the world and they were calling me the meanest names, even though I was totally polite about it. And I said it was a hard thing. But when I saw how like, I had every right to endorse Bernie Sanders. I had every right to back him. When I saw kind of like how mean people were because I was making a democratic decision that I felt was the best for the country, for the progressive movement. And then when I saw when Warren finally ended her camp, well, she didn't actually. She hurt Bernie by staying in past Super
waited
Tuesday.
To lose her own state and then
and I was tweeting things like Warren stepped down. Like after Obama did his like interference and he had Buttigieg and Klobuchar step out and basically clear the path for Biden, I was tweeting like Warren, like you should step down and endorse Bernie. And I was getting attacked for that. Our politics in the Democratic Party has gotten so fractionalized and everyone is so divided. And at the end of the day, I think that we need to be fighting for policies that are going to lift up working class and poor people who are struggling. And I saw that Bernie was fighting for that. That's why I supported him originally. And I also saw that, like, look, I fed into some of the fear mongering. I kind of was settling myself. And now it's like, there's no reason anyone should settle. We deserve better. There's no reason we should compromise our values anymore, because when we compromise our values with these corporatists, they don't take an inch, they take a mile, and they don't give us anything. Biden did not make one major policy concession to the left. He did not support Medicare for all. He did not support a Green New Deal. He did not support UBI. He did not support, full student debt cancellation. He gave kind of like these little tiny things, a $15 minimum wage, which really should be $22 now.
Crumbs.
That was what Bernie campaigned on in 2016, $15. So my big awakening was just seeing how corrupt the DNC was, how against Bernie they were the whole time. I remember tweeting against the app. I thought that app thing was ridiculous in Iowa. I mean, a lot of people could see through that. And then Buttigieg came and claimed victory when he really didn't win. I mean, it was all so ridiculous. And I think that, I just think that it's time for us to fight for what we believe in. I think that the reason Democrats lose is they compromise. There's a lot of Democrats who think that they have to compromise their values to win. No, we have to fight for our progressive values to win. And especially if we want to win policies for the people who are struggling the most. And so I hope more people keep waking up. That's the whole point. Like, don't stay stuck in your politics. The whole point of life is to grow and evolve and change. And I think Americans, we like, oh, well, I'm a Democrat, so I'm going to be a Democrat forever. Well, it's like, well, the Democrats aren't really who they say they are, and everyone's struggling, and we really need real change. And so I think that I encourage people to look outside the box and to, don't blindly follow your leaders. In a democracy, which we don't really live in, America is an oligarchy, but the whole point is not to blindly obey a corporate party. The whole point is to question and challenge and demand better from them. And we didn't see any of that, and so that really was it for me when I saw people attacking me for endorsing Bernie. And then it was, it's really what happened. These liberals just radicalized me more. When the Warren crew all just told me I was horrible and garbage for fighting for what I believed in and doing and following my heart. When you believe something in your heart, you're going to fight for it, and that's just the kind of person I am. So the more people push back, the more pushback I got from the DNC, from Warren type people and from Biden supporters, the more I'm just like, dude, like, no, like, this is what I believe in. I believe in a single payer healthcare system. I believe in, a Green New Deal for, so we'll have a habitable planet for the future. And now I believe that, like, we need to even move further. Like, I went from being what you'd call a progressive in 2018 to, like, I'm a socialist now. Like, I'm comfortable calling myself that. And I think we live in a time where I hope a lot more people realize that we need to have a lot less predatory capitalists and a lot more democratic socialists if we're going to have a sustainable economy, if we're going to have a sustainable planet. The path we are on right now is not sustainable. Capitalism is destroying our planet. It's destroying our people. We have got to start fighting and moving and shifting towards, an economy that is, distributes wealth evenly and isn't just destroying our ecosystem. And so I hope more people start to realize that. And the last thing I'll say is I think that, I think a lot of our parents' generation, I know my parents, like, even though capitalism has never worked for everyone, again, to have a ruling class, you have to have a working class and a poor that the ruling class exploits. But capitalism worked for a lot more people in the 60s and 70s and for our parents' generation than it's working for now. And I think that a lot of people are they get their news from corporate media. They should be watching you guys. They should be getting their news from you and more independent media. But so they're not really seeing that, like, capitalism didn't end up very well. It ended up with us having 2 billionaires now own more wealth than half of our entire nation. Capitalism ended up with it now hitting 100 degrees in the Arctic for the first time in history. Capitalism, it turned out that, like, we're losing entire species of animals. And so it's not working. And I think our parents' generation, I know my parents, their idea of capitalism is a lot different than our generation's idea, because our generation has now lived through 3 recessions and, multiple wars, and we're just tired of it. Our generation is strong. Our generation is thinking outside the box. I'm a millennial, and Generation Z, the ones below me, y'all are even more radical. Like, my partner's Cuban, and I told him, I'm like, you think it's crazy that I'm a socialist. The Generation Z, they're communists. Like, it's like, and so there's just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's different now for us. We're waking up and seeing that, like, the system we have isn't fair and it isn't right, and we don't have to accept it anymore. We can fight for something better. And so I would encourage everyone who's still kind of a more corporate Democrat or a more kind of a neoliberal, like, open your eyes, like, kind of see what's going on. Things aren't working. And if you think they're working for you, look at your neighbor and just see, like, the path we're heading. And I think if people saw the big picture and they opened their eyes a little wider, I think they'd start. I think the biggest regret that liberals will have when they do wake up is that they didn't support Bernie Sanders. I really think that he was like trying to save the Democratic Party from itself.
The compromise.
And
he was the great shark.
He was. And I think that'll be the big regret for if these centrists ever really do wake up, that the way they treated Bernie, like, all he was trying to do was bring the party back to its FDR roots and stop all of this corporate greed that has just destroyed our country and really turned America into an oligarchy. We're not a democracy. Democracy is a government that's of, by, and for the people. We're an oligarchy, which is a government that is of, by, and for the ruling class. Yeah. And more people need to just understand what's really happening so we can start to move toward justice and dignity.